Okay, so sixth verse. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitah. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajati ante kalevaram. When the body is dropping at the end, kalevaram, the body is dropping, tyajati ante kalevaram, tam tama tam tam eva eva eti kaunteya sada tad
Eva iti இல்லையா?
eva iti eva iti, correct. tam tam eva iti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitah. So as one thinks of, when they are dropping the body, so they attain to that state of thinking. என்ன யோசிக்கிறாளோ அது அடைவோம், which means what you are thinking is what you will attain to when the body drops. Now we need to remember, we may think that thinking is something that we do. How can thinking just manifest itself? You think, how can thinking, if thinking can manifest itself like that so easily, then நான் நினைச்சதெல்லாம் நடக்கணுமே. Whatever I'm thinking should happen, right? But why is it only that at the time of death, if I'm thinking something, then I'll become that? So what it means here, it means so whenever one remembers upon giving up the body at the time of one attains to that state. Now, one important thing to note is, again, this discussion is what is happening at the time of death, and none of us have experienced that. None of us know what it means to die. So we are taking from the scriptures to say that, oh, possibly this is what happens at the time of death, right? We don't know. But it's also a caution. Andaf tamaf pravishanti. What is the second or the third verse in Ishavasya Upanishad? Andam tamaf pravishanti. Ye. No, not that one. Sorry. The third verse is what? Asuryanamate loka andhena tamasavrataha tamste pretyabhigachanti yeke cha atmano janaha. So those who are stuck in this repetitive cycle of a pattern. See, what is important to notice is what is the pattern that you're creating in yourself. What is becoming your second nature? There is a very beautiful short video by Swami Sarva Priyananda. Maybe I'll drop it in the group. It's excellent. Very beautifully explains what karma is and what do you do through the process of spiritual sadhana, what we are trying to do, and how does this, what is it that when we say that when we die we become like this, when we think this we become like that, and things like that, it essentially doesn't mean just thinking. It doesn't just mean that, oh, I thought about this at the time of that death, suddenly something appears. If I'm going to die, something appears and I thought about that, will I become that? It's not like that. What it means is, what is your predominant tendency that is constituting your nature? What is the predominance in your pattern? What is the pattern that is there within you at the time of death?
சப்கான்ஷியஸ்ல என்ன இருக்கும்?
Whatever is in your subconscious, whatever is in your in your tendency, what is there is your second nature, the way you respond to things, the way you react to things. This is something that we have developed over lifetimes, and even in this lifetime we have developed some of these things. These habits, these tendencies, the nature of responding, reacting to things, that is our second nature. That is our nature. And what is mentioned in this, in verses of this kind, is how do you address that? And that cannot be addressed at the time of death. Your tendencies, the way you look at things, the way you respond to things, suppose your general response to things is fear or doubt or some kind of anxiety or some kind of um, some kind of um, an instinct to just protect yourself, right? Thinking that, oh, the world is out to get me. If some of these tendencies are dominant in the way I interact with the world, those tendencies will surface out when you become more and more, or rather less and less able to control your mind. At the time of death, you are less able to control your mind. What surfaces out is your tendencies and your the nature that is built in you over time. There is one interesting story of this. Some say this is a story of Tenali Raman, some will say Birbal, right? So in the north, they'll say Birbal stories. In the south, we'll say Tenali Raman. So interesting story is that there is this guy who is a master of many languages, or many Indian languages, and also other languages like the European, African, um, um, several other Middle Eastern languages and all that. Also, this guy has mastered to the extent that he is so fluent in the accent. It'll be very difficult for somebody to find out what his original mother tongue is. So this man comes to various kingdoms and he defeats people there by speaking in different languages, and he will throw a challenge to the court saying that, uh, is there anybody intelligent in your court, O king, who can tell me what my mother tongue is? So then he comes like this, and he comes to Vijayanagara Empire. Tenali Raman is there. If it's a story of Birbal, Akbar's court. So he comes and he challenges the king, says that I'm a multilinguist, I'm a linguist, and I can speak so many languages, but I challenge nobody will be able to determine what my mother tongue is. So and then he speaks in different languages. There are people in, for example, if it's Akbar's court, there are people in Akbar's court. There are people from different places, parts of the world, who are in his court. They listen to him and say, wow, he speaks exactly like the language that we speak, and we are not able to identify I mean, we can't find out a different in his accent or anything. It just seems natural. So everyone says like this. So nobody is able to find this out. So then the king asks, well, let's continue with the story of Birbal, right? The king asks Birbal, how do you do this now? How are you going to do this? Then the king, Birbal says, give me just one night. Let me think about it, right? And then the next morning, they all arrive to the court. And then Birbal says the language of this person is this, Telugu. He just says the language of the person is Telugu. And then the king asks this person, you must honestly respond, is your language Telugu? And then the person who throws this challenge, he's shocked. He says, how did you know? So then then Akbar asks, how did you find this out? And he says, at night when he was sleeping, I poured a bucket of water on his head.
ಫೈರ್ ಒಳೆಯೋದು.
ತೂಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಅಮ್ಮನ ಕತ್ತಿನ something like that, right? In Telugu, you would have said something. So he got up like that, shouting, which is what we do. We and this is not because our mind is not operating there. You're not completely conscious. You're not awake. You're not conscious. So your tendency, your nature, whatever is your reactive nature, that comes to the fore. He'll say ayyo. He'll say there's a possibility that he's either a Tamil or a Telugu guy. High likelihood. But I don't know. Koreans also say ayyo. But just to keep the conversation simple here.
ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ಲೇ ಇருக்கு ಅಯ್ಯೋ.
So the point here is that how does he determine this? And what did Birbal think? That When you go and pour water on this person when he's deep asleep, he will get up with a startle and a shock, and then the words that will come out will be in the words of his the most comfortable tongue that he is, which is his mother tongue, most likely. Just an illustration example, just I mean there are technicalities here and there, but the illustration here is to say that that which is your innate nature surfaces out at times like this. This is what happens at the time of death also. What you actually are within you, which you a lot of times you don't try to face it, you try to push it to the background and try to cover it up, that will come in front of you. And that is what they say, this thought that occurs is what is going to lead you to your next stage in your life or the next life. What does that mean? Now, how do I fix this thing? Can I get up in a way, even if there is water poured on my head, can I get up in a way, in a very conscious way, without a startle? I'm giving an example, right? If we train ourselves like that, of course, we're not training ourselves for each of these things. It's not about building a skill. It is about recognizing that there are tendencies within us that we ourselves are not aware of. So, what is the process of spiritual sadhana? Spiritual sadhana is we become more and more aware of ourselves. What is self realization eventually? Is you become aware of all of this, that there are these limitations, these conditions, these tendencies that are there in this form. It is there. But then the moment you become aware, you also stand above it, which means you do not let it take charge of you. So, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajati ante kalevaram. Whenever somebody drops the body thinking of whatever, that is where he attains and that is where he goes to. And he continues here. Of course, this verse, in connection with the fifth verse, what Bhagavan is saying is the one who thinks about me constantly, at the time of death, he thinks about me, he comes to me. That is what Bhagavan is trying to tell, which is what he is explaining here also. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. So, because at what you attain after death is determined by how you live, during life, during your living, think about me, think about the right things. Constantly think about those things that are going to elevate your spirits, make you feel devoted, make you feel make you feel not conditioned. Remind yourself constantly during the day that amritasya putraha, that we are all these immortal beings. Now, how do you, of course, your transaction, you do all that you do, but then go back inwards and say that constantly during the day, repeat to yourself that none of this will bother me, none of this should bother me. I'm exhausted, my mind is exhausted, my body is exhausted during the day, activities of the day. It's all right, it's the body and the mind that is exhausted. I am not. I will take rest, I will release the exhaustion, I will release the tension, but I go into that state of quietude within me. I let the body relax, I let the mind relax, and then I come back. This we constantly remind ourselves. And why? And how do we remind? We set up reminders. These days, people have alarms set up for drinking water also. There is this guy in office.
Actually, smartwatch even tells you to breathe,
Breathe, is it?
Come Apple Watchல வந்து you can set it, once every hour it will just tell you, stand up and then breathe or whatever. Constantly remind you to do things.
That's funny. So that reminders are required now. A colleague of mine in the office, every 1 hour suddenly there'll be gudu 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 gudu, and there'll be a water gurgling sound that will come. He'll be sitting at desk ahead of me. This is about 3-4 years ago in Singapore. I was working. Gudu gudu, the water gurgling sound will come. I was like wondering, where is the sound coming from? Then he'll say, nothing, sir. My phone is reminding me to drink water.
Reminding every one of you to drink water, I think.
Reminding, the stage will come where it will say, be aware, be alive.
So that is important, right? We should we should have that kind of this thing. Now this is very nice because this kind of reminders are good, and it's we may we may think that it's a little funny. Like for example, I'll tell you, in the Middle East, where you go, you hear this azan 5 times a day. It's a great reminder, actually, right? There is azan, people go to masjid, namaz, and all that they do, but we can use it as a reminder. There's suddenly this azan, this the sound is going. You can use that as a reminder to stand for a moment and then connect. There was this Vietnamese Buddhist monk, very popular, Thich Nhat Hanh. His name was Thich Nhat Hanh, and he also featured on Oprah Winfrey shows. Very gentle person, beautiful. The way he talks, his English is a little he's got a very heavy Vietnamese accent. He set up a beautiful monastery in Vietnam where he trains people, whoever comes, and also has a lot of monks, Buddhist monks, and he trains people in walking meditation, sitting meditation, eating meditation, different kinds of meditation. So you do meditation and you're aware during everything that you do. In that ashram, he's set up a bell, a big gong. So it's a large ashram, and people are doing different things in the different places of the ashram, right? He set up a gong bell, a big gong, which will go as a gong once every 20 minutes or maybe 30 minutes or an hour or something like that, right? Every hour the gong will go, and he has instructed all the monks there, when that gong goes, just drop whatever you're doing for that moment, bring your awareness, bring your awareness, bring your awareness to what you're doing. Nothing. You don't have to suddenly sit and pray, Kayana Vacham, nothing. You don't have to do any the japam tapam and all that. Just bring your awareness. Because bringing awareness is a phenomenal, it brings a lot of energy. When you bring awareness, it brings a lot of energy. I always like this example. When you're, a lot of people have this habit of shaking their leg. Whenever they're in a conversation or doing something very intently, they'll not know their leg, they'll shake their legs. The leg will be shaking like that because they're very actively engaged in some conversation or something. They'll not realize that their leg is shaking. Now, I have just tested this with some people. I say, hey, your leg is shaking. I said, oh, okay. Then they'll stop. So then I asked, what did you have to do to stop the leg from shaking? Did you have to hold the leg or say, don't shake? Nothing. You just had to become aware that the leg is shaking. Correct? Just that awareness brings phenomenal energy in your space. Just awareness can bring phenomenal energy. So the same thing, we become aware. So when the gong goes or whatever, we use reminders. During the full day, we use reminders. So like here he's saying, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu, at all times, Mam Anusmara, keep thinking about me. And then Yudhya Cha. Yudhya means go and fight. See, this is like a phenomenal line, I think. This line is something, it's like a mantra. Sarveshu, tasmat, forget tasmat, okay? Just from Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhya. At all times, keep thinking about me and fight. He's not saying don't fight, because that is your duty. You're bound to fight. I am not getting into the whole conversation of should you fight now, should you not fight. I am not debating all that. Now you've come to a point where you have to fight. You're standing in the war field, you're standing in the battlefield. All decisions have been made. People are backing you up. People are on the other side. Everything is done. Now you have to fight. I am only teaching you how to fight. Right? Many times that happens to us in our lives, right? We don't have choices. We are unable to make certain choices just because our environmental conditions put us in a situation. We are not able to make a certain, not make choices. We are in this இதுல தான் இருக்கோம். Nelson Mandela, 27 years he was in jail. How much ever tataka pitaka enna avanalam he did, he couldn't do any. 27 years he was in jail, he couldn't come out. All his adult life, pretty much his whole adult life was gone. He couldn't do anything. What you just have to be. So there are situations like this. A lot of people, a lot of us may feel like we are imprisoned somewhere. We feel that ayyo inga maatintene. We do whatever we have to do. Doesn't mean that you don't have to do, but then at the same time, what he is saying is fight the battle, whatever you're doing, do, but keep this in your mind. What is most important? Mam anusmara, think about me, means bring your attention, bring your awareness, keep thinking about your ishta, keep thinking about Bhagavan. Then mayar pita mano buddhi mam eva eshyasi asamshayam. Then alone, and then you do this mam arpita manabuddhi, manas and buddhi, both you arpita, you surrender to me, you surrender both of them to me, in me, my arpita mano manaha buddhi, then mam eva eshyasi, you will attain to me asamshayam, without a doubt. Do not doubt. Okay, so fight. If you have to fight, fight. If you have to do whatever you have to do, you have to survive, do anything that you have to do, but keep this in your mind, keep this in your mind constantly. So meditate. This is meditation in action. Just 1 second. Sorry. So tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhya cha mayi arpita mano buddhihi mam eva eshyasi asamshayam. Without a doubt you shall attain to me. So what are they doing? He's talking about the rewards of after death and using those as a motivation for now. Because, sorry, you cannot fix any of this at the time of death. That is something very important we need to realize, right? And of course, I think we are all realizing, which is why we are sitting here. The primary reason we come and go for satsangs is that we realize that we can't do much at the time of death. Ippo pannada undu. Appo kandu Ramakrishna nu panna, nothing is going to work, right? So that is why we have even assembled. But it's important during the day, during the week, during our activities, mam anusmara yudhyacha abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nyanyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati partha anuchintayan. So he's saying constantly engage the mind without deviating, you will certainly attain to me. Abhyasa yoga yuktena, by practicing yoga, abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa, with the mind you are constantly in yoga, in your mind. Na anyagamina, na anyagamina is without getting distracted, without getting distracted. Anyagamina, elsewhere, without the mind going elsewhere. Paramam purusham divyam yati, attains, attains, O Partha, anuchintayan, by constant thinking. So without na anyagamina anuchintayan, what you should not do? Na anyagamina. You should not do. Do not anyagamina. Do not let the mind go distracted in other places. And constantly anuchintayan. On what? On paramam purusham. On the divine entity or the divine form. See, many people have some experiences, whether in meditation or in their dreams. You may have the experience of seeing your Ishta in some form or the other, right? You may have had some dream, some this thing, or even if you've not had dreams, you'd come across a very beautiful picture of your Ishta, a very beautiful something that you connect so deeply with. Always carry that with you. Always carry that with you, because a lot of times when we study a lot of philosophy, right? A lot of times philosophy doesn't come to help when you have to think something in a state of emotional turbulence. A lot of times philosophy doesn't come to help. It is these images that come to help, because philosophy requires thinking, and now your mind is clouded. Clarity of thought is required until philosophy, like through nididhyasanam, until that philosophy becomes a part of our way of seeing. Till that time, we have to create these tools in our mind so that when the mind goes through emotional turbulences, we use these images to bring back our mind to a certain place. Because at that time you apply any of these Mahavakyas, Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi, none of that will work. Because that requires clarity of mind. But your mind is now clouded with emotion because there is a certain turbulence that you're going through in life. And to bring that, if you have to calm the ocean, the turbulent waters, at that time you have to bring these images that you establish within you by seeing, by thinking. Like if you've had a dream, suppose you had Ishta come into your dream, re-establish that dream again and again. Keep thinking that dream. Keep thinking that dream. Like Kavita once had a very, very interesting dream. She said, this is a few years ago. We have this Bhuneshwari Ambal, right? So somehow this Ambal, she's standing at a Garbhagraha. Kavita standing at the Garbhagraha, and Ambal walks out of the Garbhagraha. She's wearing green, and she comes, and in front of the Garbhagraha, usually there are these metal rails, so you can't cross over, right? So you stand there. So Ambal comes there, she lifts her leg, one leg keeps on the rail, and tells Kavita, press my leg. நான் சொன்னேன், எவ்வளோ blessed you are. Ambal is coming and herself offering her leg to you and asking you to press her leg.
தியாகராஜரோட வைஃப் தான் ரொம்ப லக்கியா. ஏன்னா இவர் பாட்டு கண்ண மூடின்னு சாதனை பண்ணிட்டு இருப்பான். ராமலட்சுமணா வரதெல்லாம் அவாதான் பார்ப்போம்.
Absolutely right. So I told her, you're so blessed. Now reinforce that. So I tell her, Adani, constantly keep thinking. Ambal herself has come. See what happens over a point later, over several years, it will diminish in its value. Whenever such dreams or such visions or something like this comes, it will remain so fresh and nice when it happens, and maybe for a few days. But give it a year, 2 years, 3 years, it will slowly diminish. But then that's a glimpse that has been given to you so that you use it as a powerful tool. So we'll have to remind ourselves constantly. So I tell her, think about that. Think about that. Whenever you think you're alone, somebody, or whatever you feel, you go through emotional disturbances or whatever, anything that happens, think about that. Mother herself came. She stood in front of me, and I got the opportunity to do this. I was in her Sannidhanam. So this is important. When we anuchintayan means constantly remembering this through the process of your daily activities. Then 9 and 10, Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyan Anoraniyamsam Anusmaretyah Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Adityavarna Adityavarnam Tamasah Parastat Prayana Kale Manasa Chalena Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Balena Chaiva Bhruvor Madhye Pranam Aveshya Pranam Aveshya Samyak Satam Param Purusham Upaiti Divyam. Okay, so here there are few vakyas that is used from the Upanishads. Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. One of the Upanishads, this line comes in Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. I think Taittiriya Upanishad or one of the Upanishads. Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. Is Kenopanishad, I think. Either Kathopanishad or Kenopanishad. Kathopanishad. Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. So this one is to say that this is the form of the Atma, or form of the consciousness or entity that we're talking about. Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan Atma Guhayam Nihitosya Jantoho Tamakritam Pashyati Vita Shokah Dhatu Prasadan Mahimanam Isham. So this one, in fact, in Bhagavad Gita, there are several places where Bhagavan Krishna has used statements from the Upanishad, which is why this is also considered as an Upanishad. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, so Upanishad, so Brahmavidyayam. So that way this is called the this thing. There are many Kathopanishad Vakya that I used here. The other Vakya that comes, Chandramama said, Purusha Suktam. Which one? Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat. So he is brighter than the sun. Sorry, Mama, I'm just reading a message. Appaya Dikshitar experimented his tendency for a short time by eating Omatangai, and he became mad, and at that time he was also thinking about God. Then through Shishya
ஊமத்தங்காய்னு அது சாப்பிட்டாரு அவரு. அது சாப்பிட்டுட்டு சிஷ்யர்கிட்ட சொன்னாரு, அதுக்கு மாத்து மருந்து வச்சிருந்தாங்க அவங்க. பட் அந்த சமயத்துல அவர் வந்து ஸ்லோகம் தான் சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தார், எல்லாம் இதெல்லாம் பகவானை தான் திங்க் பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தார். அதை வந்து டெஸ்ட் பண்றதுக்காக அவர் பண்ணார். அப்புறம் மாத்து மருந்து கொடுத்து அவரை மறுபடியும் கொண்டார். அது வந்து இதுல எழுதியிருக்கு, அந்த அந்த ஊர்ல எழுதியிருக்கு, அடையபாலத்துல எழுதியிருக்கு. ஆமா, அந்த கல்வெட்டுல எழுதியிருக்கு.
So this is to show, even though his body and mind went into a deluded state, he was still holding on to the thought of God.
He wanted to test that.
He wanted to test it. Very nice. Beautiful.
அதான் எனக்கு என்ன தோணுதுன்னா, இந்த even though the mind we are able to train, it's the body that has to cooperate. அந்த சமயத்துல நம்மளுக்கு வந்து பெயின் கீன்னா வந்துனாக்கா நம்ம புத்தி அந்த பெயின்லயும் அதுலயும் தான் போகும்.
ஆமா,
அம்மா வலிக்குது படிக்குது அப்படின்னு அதுதான் சொல்லிட்டு இருக்கோம்.
Absolutely.
But however hard we try to train our mind, எல்லாம் பண்ணிருக்கோம். இந்த கடைசி நேரத்துல எக்ஸாம்ல மறந்து போற மாதிரி, அதுக்குதான் வந்து ஐ திங்க் சாதனம் தான். இது வந்து எவ்ரி மினிட் நம்ம வந்து அந்த அவேர்னஸ் வந்துட்டே இருக்கணும்னு நினைக்கிறது இல்லையா?
What you're saying is true, because when there is intense agony in the body, the mind will definitely focus on the body. It'll and I think focusing on the pain is not so much of an issue. We always
சாதனால நம்ம சாதனால என்ன பண்ணுவோம், நம்ம we have to start ignoring our body to a certain extent that we are that okay இது சரீரம் இப்படிதான் அவ்வளவுதான், okay let's ignore பெயின். ஓகே மருந்துலாம் சாப்பிடும், பட் அது எஃபெக்ட் ஆகிற வரைக்கும் அந்த பெயினை வந்து இக்னோர் பண்ணா வந்து we have to train ourselves.
I think you're right. See, the a lot of times ignoring it may not also work, but you're right. That is the direction in which we need to move, is that even when the pain is there, I am doing other things. See, there are periods of intense pain. For example, if I'm having a back pain, like the shingles, there is this intense pain here that was there. It is there during the day. But then there will be times in the day when it's not intense. See, otherwise we will not be able to live. You can't have intense pain continuously 24/7. Obviously, there will be times when it's relaxing, when it's going down, and it's giving you a breather, and again the pain is increasing, and again it's going down. That is how usually the pattern of pain is. The important thing is when there is a little bit of time when it is bearable. Okay, so let me use it this way. There is times when it's unbearable, there are times when it's bearable. When it's bearable, we have to use that time when it's bearable to do this, and not complain about the pain and not make that pain into a suffering. See, what happens to us is when there is intense pain and agony, when it's unbearable, your mind is not thinking. You're just so intently focused on pain, which is fine, because at that time it is severe and you focus on pain. But then there is a period of, there's a spike, then there is a period of you bear it. Oh my God, it was so bad. That period, bring back our mind to Bhagavad Chintanam, bring back our mind to this awareness, bring back our mind to intense devotion or something, pick up a scripture, pick up a book, read bring our mind into that devotion again. And again the pain may come, the pain may arise again. Now, what happens is, when the pain is unbearable, bearable, unbearable, during the time it's bearable, we think of the time when it was unbearable. We lose the time thinking about that one, or we lose the time complaining about it. Why am I getting this pain? Or we lose the time in converting it to suffering, because the suffering then becomes who caused it, why did it happen, why am I having to face this, what is happening to me, what did I do wrong, because of somebody I am having to go through this. All of this happens during the time the pain is bearable. We all do this. So the point is, when the pain is bearable, can I bring my attention to this? Then the magic that happens is the unbearable pain starts becoming bearable. See, at the end of the day, between us and a yogi who's sitting in the Himalayas on ice and meditating, what is the difference? Body is the same, Panchabhuta. He has trained it, we have not trained it. What has he trained? Both. He has trained the body and the mind. We have not trained it. So as we go through this process, this is what we do. And also the other point earlier Kalpaka made of subconscious. How do we deliver subconsciously some things into us? Like boring, again, this term, the boring term, right? How do you keep boring? Keep listening to Upanyasam, Satsang, Nama Sankirtanam, Pravachanam, whatever, you keep listening to it even while there is pain. Because subconsciously it starts creating that impact. Jaggi was there despite severe headache last month, conducted the Shivratri function. Correct. And nobody could say that he was undergoing severe pain there, right? So they have trained. A lot of them are trained. We have not trained ourselves to that extent of bearing. And The level of bearability, each one is very different. Each one bears different amounts of pain. They can bear, like for example, my daughter was trying to, she said, there's a lot of dirt in your toe, Appa, I want to clean. She got some little this thing, and she started doing some kind of thing with my toe. I said, I can't bear it, please. அப்பா இது கூட தாங்க. I said, I said, எனக்கு வேணா anesthesia கொடுத்துட்டு பண்ணு. I am okay. If you really want to do it. Because the body is real. Like Mama is saying, the body is reacting. What do I do? So I don't want to take that. So, but when the times there is this times of bearable pain, or when this thing is low, at that time we invest. We keep doing this, and then there'll be times where it'll just transform. Pain will transform in different ways for different individuals, right? Your experience of pain will transform. Pain may be there, but the experience of pain may transform, and this will happen through His grace. So here in the last verse, he's saying, the 9th and 10th, he's saying Aniyor Aniyan. So this particular entity that is omniscient, and it is the controller of everything. This is the Isha, the supporter of everything. It's brighter than the sun. Aditya Varnam Tamasaf Parastat, beyond all darkness. And one who at the time of death, Prayana Kale Manasas Chalena, Manasa Chalena, without any movement of the mind, one who is able to keep his mind on this. When the pranas are leaving, keep your focus on the eyebrows. When the prana is leaving, such a person, he will attain to that divinity. He'll attain to that state of complete absorption, some absorption into his ishta, into that person's ishta. There'll be this complete absorption, because then individuality will not exist in the form we are experiencing it now. You'll be filled with the experience of the divine, right? Because you've brought your attention to the Bhrumadhya, and when the prana is leaving, this is very important. If this is something that we can practice during living, we try to bring our attention to a Bhrumadhya, then whenever death occurs, if we are able to remember this and bring our attention to this, and that's it. And keep your Krishna or your Ishta, whatever, keep that attention here. And when the breath leaves, Bhagavan says, you will merge into me. Right? So this is another, he is giving another hint. Krishna is giving another hint. During your time, how do you bring your attention? You bring your attention just by bringing your attention into the Bhrumadhya. Bring your attention here and just stay there. During the day, keep practicing this. Nothing, there is no big sadhana, no this thing. If you're so busy with so much of work and so much of tension and so many priorities and all of that, if you don't know how to bring in sadhana into your daily life, then all you do is, whenever they are wanting to bring your attention, just bring your attention, bring your eyes, both your eyeballs, bring it to the center of the eyes here, the eyebrows, center of the eyebrows, and then stay there for a minute. Bring that attention there, drop everything for that moment. Then your awareness is there. Right? Bring that attention there, drop everything. At that instant, drop everything. Give yourself 30 seconds. and then come back. This we practice during the day. During the day, we keep practicing this. He says, Krishna says, at the time of death, whenever death is occurring, you will want to bring your attention there. And then when you leave the breath with your attention and the Bhrumadhya, that's it. There's no more a greater death and a beautiful death than that. And Kalpaka, there are people around you who've been through experiences like this. Maybe you can share this with them. Everybody's going to die at some day or the other, but this is something that, of course, I don't wish that people around you have to go, but it's something that one can definitely. It's a very simple process that he is Krishna has indicated here, right? So with that, we finish the 10th shloka of chapter 8. Okay. Om kayena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrite svabhavat karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayanayeeti samarpayami सदाशिवायेति समर्पयामि जगदम्बिकायै समर्पयामि सद्गुरुनाथायै समर्पयामि हरि ओम तत्सद्गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम
हरि ओम